Admiral HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars disappear one by one. Each dying light meant another world had fallen to the Devourers. His forearms trembled as he gripped the command rail, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. The Kaleth had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. Their crystal cities sparkled on 100 worlds. Their technology was among the most advanced in known space. Their shields could stop almost any weapon. "Almost, sir," called his communications officer, her voice shaking. "We've lost contact with the Meridian colonies. All 7 worlds." HFY closed his large golden eyes. 7 billion Kaleth lived on those worlds just yesterday. Now there was nothing but empty space and the terrible hunger of the Devourers. "How many fleets do we have left?" he asked. 1,200 ships, Admiral. Maybe less, 1,200. They once commanded 50,000 vessels. The Devourers had eaten the rest, along with their crews, their weapons, even the metal hulls. Nothing satisfied their endless hunger. The Devourers came from beyond the galaxy's edge 2 years ago. No one knew where they originated. They looked like giant insects crossed with machines, their ships grown rather than built. They consumed everything in their path, planets, ships, even stars if they stayed long enough. Every alliance had tried to stop them. The proud Zentari Empire threw 1,000,000 ships at the first Devourer fleet. The biomechanical horrors ate them all and grew stronger. The ancient Void Walkers used weapons that could crack planets. The Devourers absorbed the energy and multiplied. Now only scattered fleets remained, retreating toward the galaxy's core. The Kaleth homeworld of Nexus Prime lay directly in the Devourer's path. Zavki knew his people had days, maybe hours, before the swarm arrived. "Send another message on all frequencies," he ordered. "Emergency transmission to any civilization still fighting. We offer our complete shield technology and stellar maps in exchange for military assistance. The Kaleth will share everything we know with anyone willing to stand with us." His communications officer looked doubtful. "Sir, we've been broadcasting that message for weeks. Nobody has responded. The few civilizations still alive are protecting their own worlds." "Then send it again," HFY said firmly. "And again after that. Someone out there might still have the courage to fight." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. Through the main viewport, HFY could see Nexus Prime growing larger as their battered fleet approached home. The beautiful blue and green world looked peaceful from space. But he knew panic gripped the population below. Evacuation ships had been leaving for days, carrying Kaleth refugees to hidden colonies deeper in the galaxy, but most of his people refused to abandon their homeworld. They would rather die fighting than live as homeless wanderers. HFY understood their choice. He felt the same way. "Admiral?" The communications officer suddenly called out, excitement in her voice. "We're receiving a response to our distress call." HFY's hearts began beating faster. "Who is it?" "The Zentari remnants." "The Voidwalker survivors?" "No, sir, I've never seen this signature before. The signal is coming from outside our local cluster, very far away." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, then displayed text in the common galactic language. The message was short and simple. "Kaleth Command, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. We received your distress signal. A human fleet is en route to your position. Estimated arrival at Nexus Prime, 72 standard hours. Hold the line. Help is coming." The bridge crew stared at the message in confusion. HFY read it 3 times before speaking. "Humans? I've never heard of this species. Computers search all databases for references to humans or Earth." The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. "No records found, Admiral. These species are not in any Kaleth, Zentari, or Galactic Council databases." "How is that possible?" HFY muttered. "Every spacefaring civilization has been catalogued for millennia." His tactical officer, a young Kaleth named Kesara, looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm analyzing the signal origin. It came from a region we've never explored, about 15,000 light-years away. That's on the galaxy's outer rim, beyond known space. And they claim they can reach us in 72 hours? That would require faster-than-light travel capabilities far beyond anything we've achieved." HFY felt a mixture of hope and skepticism. Unknown aliens offering help sounded too good to be true. But what choice did they have? "Send a response," he ordered. "Thank them for their offer and provide detailed tactical information about the Devourer forces. If these humans are real, they need to know what they're facing." As his crew worked to compile the data, HFY stared at the message again. Something about it puzzled him. The tone seemed confident, almost casual. Most species spoke of the Devourers with fear and desperation. These humans wrote like they dealt with galactic threats every day. Over the next several hours, more information arrived from the mysterious human fleet. Their technical specifications made no sense. Ships with impossible armor densities, weapons that violated known physics, energy readings that suggested technology centuries ahead of anything in the galaxy. "Admiral," Kessera said, studying the data, "either these humans are the most advanced civilization ever discovered, or they're completely insane. Listen to this weapon description. Antimatter warheads with quantum containment fields. That's theoretical at best." HFY nodded grimly. "Insane or not, they're our only hope. How long until the Devourers arrive?" "Long-range sensors detect the swarm approaching from the Arcturus sector. They'll reach Nexus Prime in approximately 18 hours. 18 hours. The humans had promised to arrive in 72, but the Devourers would be here much sooner. HFY realized his people would have to hold the line alone just like always. "Prepare the fleet for final defense," he commanded. "Deploy all remaining ships in a protective grid around Nexus Prime. Make sure every weapon is charged and every shield is at maximum power." As the Kaleth fleet took position around their homeworld, HFY found himself thinking about the mysterious humans. Were they real? Could they possibly arrive in time? And if they did come, would they really stand against the Devourers when every other civilization had failed? He looked at his reflection in the dark viewport glass. His golden eyes showed exhaustion, but also determination. The Kaleth had fought bravely for 2 years. They had saved millions of refugees from other worlds. They had given everything to slow the Devourer advance. If these humans were real, if they truly intended to help, then perhaps there was still hope. But HFY was a military commander, not a dreamer. He would prepare for battle as if no help was coming. "Signal all ships," he announced to the bridge. "This is Admiral HFY to the Kaleth Defense Fleet. In 18 hours, we face our greatest challenge. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every innocent life the Devourers have taken. We fight for the memory of fallen worlds and the hope of future generations. Today we stand. Tomorrow we endure. Prepare for battle." The bridge crew straightened with renewed purpose. Outside, the blue and green world of Nexus Prime turned slowly in space. Beautiful and fragile and worth defending. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, an unknown force called humans raced toward them. Time would tell if salvation came from the void, or if the Kaleth would face their final battle alone. The darkness between stars began to ripple and tear. Space itself seemed to scream as massive shapes forced their way into reality. One by one, the Devourer fleet emerged from their twisted version of faster-than-light travel. Hive Queen Velnara felt the pleasure of arrival through her neural connection to the swarm. Her consciousness existed across millions of biomechanical ships, each one a living extension of her will. Through countless eyes, she observed the blue and green world ahead. Another meal, another world to consume. The Hive Queen's true body rested deep within her flagship, a creature the size of a small moon. Her flesh was a mixture of organic tissue and metallic components, grown rather than built. Cables and veins ran together through her massive form, carrying both blood and data. She had been consuming worlds for over 3,000 years. The hunger never stopped, never satisfied. Each planet she devoured made her stronger, her fleet larger, her need greater. "Show me the defenders," she commanded through bio-neural impulses. Her swarm spread across space like a living plague. Ships that looked like giant insects merged with machines moved in perfect coordination. Some were small scouts with razor-sharp wings. Others were massive assault beasts with mouths full of energy weapons. All of them shared one purpose: to feed. The local defenders appeared on her sensory displays. Small crystalline ships arranged in neat formations around their homeworld. Velnara had seen similar defenses 1,000 times before. Pretty lights and energy shields that would last perhaps an hour against her swarm. "Kaleth," she said, recognizing the species from previous encounters. "I remember their taste. Sweet metal and bitter fear." Her tactical organisms reported the numbers. 1,200 enemy ships against 4 million Devourer vessels. The outcome was never in doubt. Velnara had consumed entire galactic civilizations. The proud Zentari Empire with their million-ship armadas. The ancient Voidwalkers with weapons that could crack planets. The biomechanical architects with their living technology. All had fallen before her endless hunger. These Kaleth would be no different. "Begin the consumption," she ordered. The first wave of devourer ships moved forward like a tide of death. Each vessel was unique, grown from the consumed remains of previous victims. Some still showed traces of their origins. Centauri hull designs merged with architect biotechnology, Voidwalker weapons grafted onto insectoid bodies. The Kaleth opened fire first, their energy beams cutting through space in brilliant displays of light. Velnara felt mild annoyance as several dozen of her smaller ships were destroyed. The Kaleth had good shields and decent weapons. They would provide an entertaining few minutes before being consumed. Her swarm responded with overwhelming force. Millions of bioenergy weapons fired simultaneously, turning space into a storm of deadly light. Devourer ships that specialized in electronic warfare sent out pulses to disrupt enemy systems. Living torpedoes with metal teeth launched themselves at Kaleth vessels. The first line of defenders crumbled quickly. Velnara watched through 1,000 eyes as Kaleth ships exploded or were pulled apart by biomechanical claws. Some devourer vessels immediately began consuming the wreckage, growing larger and stronger with each meal. Predictable, she mused. Their shields cannot adapt to bioenergy weapons. Their hulls are too weak to resist living metal. Another civilization that achieved space travel without learning to truly fight. The Kaleth fell back to a second defensive line, still firing desperately. Velnara admired their courage even as she prepared to consume them. Most species surrendered when they realized the hopelessness of their situation. These blue-skinned creatures kept fighting even as their fleet was systematically destroyed. Through her vast sensory network, she detected something unusual. The Kaleth were transmitting messages toward the edge of the system. Distress calls, probably. Many species tried to warn others before being consumed. Let them send their final words, Velnara decided. Fear spreads faster than we do. Other civilizations will hear about this victory and surrender more quickly. The second Kaleth defense line broke apart under concentrated assault. Now only a few hundred ships remained, clustered close to their homeworld. Velnara could sense the panic on the planet below. Billions of lives waiting to be consumed. She was preparing to order the final assault when her sensory organisms detected something strange. Space was beginning to distort at the system's edge, similar to the ripples that preceded her own arrival, but the energy signatures were completely unfamiliar. "Analysis," she commanded. Her biocomputers worked frantically to process the data. The readings made no sense. Whatever was emerging from faster-than-light travel used technology, unlike anything in her vast database of consumed civilizations. "Unknown vessels approaching," reported her tactical organisms. "Energy signatures do not match any recorded species." Velnara felt curiosity, an emotion she rarely experienced anymore. After 3 millennia of conquest, few things surprised her. New prey was always welcome, especially if they possessed interesting technology to add to her collection. "How many ships?" she asked. "Approximately 800 vessels, all of similar design. Unknown propulsion method, unknown armor composition, unknown weapon systems. 800 ships against 4 million. Velnara almost laughed. Some brave but foolish civilization had decided to help the Kaleth. They would provide a brief appetizer before the main course. The unknown fleet emerged fully from faster-than-light travel and took formation at the system's edge. Velnara studied them through her enhanced senses. The ships were strange, sleek and angular, built from materials her sensors couldn't identify. They radiated power like miniature stars. A communication signal reached her flagship. Velnara was amused. Most species begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. She decided to listen to what these newcomers had to say. The signal was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from the system or be destroyed." Velnara's massive body shook with laughter that echoed through her biomechanical chambers. Destroyed? 800 unknown ships threatening 4 million devourers? The arrogance was almost entertaining. She had never heard of humans or Earth, but she would learn their taste soon enough. Perhaps their technology would prove interesting. Their confidence suggested they possessed something unusual. "Signal our response," she commanded her communication organisms. "Tell these humans that the Hive Queen Velnara has consumed 1,000 worlds and destroyed 1,000,000 fleets. They may join the Kaleth in death, or they may flee and live a few more years. There is no third option." The human response came immediately. Understood. Engaging. Velnara watched with interest as the human fleet began to move. Instead of forming defensive lines or attempting to flank her massive swarm, they accelerated directly toward the center of her formation. Their ships moved with impossible grace, making turns that should have destroyed any crew inside. Suicidal attack pattern, she observed. Interesting. Perhaps these humans prefer death in battle to slow consumption. I can respect that choice. She ordered her swarm to prepare for close combat. Whatever these humans planned, it would be over quickly. Her bioships began forming a dense wall of claws and teeth and weapons, ready to tear apart anything that approached. The first human ship reached weapons range, and Velnara leaned forward in anticipation. She was curious to see what new technology these confident aliens would bring to their destruction. The human opened fire, and everything Velnara thought she knew about warfare died in a burst of impossible light. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the tactical display. 3 years of military academy, 20 years of active service, and 5 years commanding humanity's most advanced warship had prepared her for this moment. The Devourer swarm spread across space like a cancer, 4 million biomechanical nightmares surrounding a blue and green world. Chen had seen the intelligence reports. She knew what these creatures had done to entire civilizations. The thought made her jaw tighten with controlled anger. Captain Rodriguez, she said to her tactical officer, confirm weapon status. All systems green, Admiral. Antimatter torpedoes loaded and armed. Gravitational pulse cannons charged to full power. Quantum disruption fields ready for deployment. Stellarite warheads standing by. Chen nodded. The human fleet had traveled 15,000 light-years in 72 hours, pushing their quantum drive systems to the absolute limit. 800 ships against 4 million seemed like terrible odds to anyone who didn't understand human military doctrine. But Chen had studied warfare her entire life. She understood something the galaxy had forgotten. Numbers only mattered if you could keep your forces alive long enough to use them. Communications. Open a channel to Admiral Zephi, she ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a Kaleth vessel. The alien commander looked exhausted, his blue skin pale and his forearms trembling. Behind him, Chen could see other Kaleth officers working frantically at their stations. Admiral Chen, Zephi said, his voice filled with desperate hope. Your timing is... I cannot express our gratitude. But you must understand, the Devourers have never been defeated. They consume the Zentari Empire, the Voidwalkers, civilizations with millions of ships. Your 800 vessels, no matter how advanced. Admiral, Chen interrupted gently. We've been monitoring your transmissions for the past year. We know exactly what we're facing. Trust me when I say that human military doctrine is different from what you're used to. She could see the doubt in the alien's golden eyes. Chen didn't blame him. Humanity had only been spacefaring for 3 centuries, barely a blink of an eye compared to these ancient civilizations. But those 3 centuries had been built on 10,000 years of human warfare. Maintain your defensive positions around your homeworld. Chen continued. We'll handle the Devourers. All of them. The communication ended and Chen turned to address her bridge crew. They were all veterans, men and women who had served on humanity's frontier worlds where pirates and raiders learned the hard way not to threaten human colonies. Tactical analysis. Mr. Rodriguez, she said. The Devourers are using a standard swarm formation, designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Their bioships show evidence of consumed technology from dozens of species. Individual vessel capabilities vary widely, but all appear to be living organisms enhanced with mechanical components. Chen studied the enemy formation. It was impressive in size but tactically flawed. The Devourers had grown complacent after centuries of easy victories. They relied on intimidation and overwhelming force instead of intelligent strategy. Weaknesses, she asked. Their formation is too dense. No clear command structure visible. They appear to operate through some kind of hive mind. Biomechanical nature suggests vulnerability to quantum disruption and antimatter reactions. Enemy. Communications are attempting to reach us, reported the communications officer. Put it through. A horrible voice filled the bridge, speaking in the common galactic language. It sounded like a mixture of insect chittering and mechanical noise. Tell these humans that the Hive Queen Velnara has consumed 1,000 worlds and destroyed 1 million fleets. They may join the Kaleth in death, or they may flee and live a few more years. There is no third option. Chen looked around her bridge. Several officers were smiling grimly. Lieutenant Park, her youngest crew member, actually chuckled. "Your response, Admiral?" asked the communications officer. Chen thought about her homeworld of Earth, where humanity had spent millennia learning to kill each other with increasingly efficient methods. She thought about the wars that had nearly destroyed their species, and the hard-won wisdom that came from survival. She thought about the colonies humanity had established on harsh frontier worlds, defended by people who understood that sometimes violence was the only answer to violence. "Understood. Engaging," she said simply. The human fleet began to accelerate. 800 ships moved with perfect coordination, their quantum drives allowing maneuvers that would be impossible for vessels using conventional propulsion. They didn't form defensive lines or attempt to match the enemy's formation. Instead, they arrowed directly toward the densest part of the Devourer swarm. "Admiral," called her navigation officer, "we're receiving panicked transmissions from the Kaleth fleet. They think we're committing suicide." "Not suicide, Lieutenant. Surgery," Chen replied. "Target the center of their formation. Maximum acceleration. All ships prepare for close engagement." The Indomitable and her sister ships plunged into the heart of the Devourer swarm like arrows shot by an angry god. The biomechanical creatures reacted slowly, their hive mind struggling to process the humans' impossible tactics. Chen watched the range close on her tactical display. 5 million kilometers. 4 million. 3 million. The Devourers were finally beginning to respond, turning their massive formation to face the approaching human fleet. "All ships," Chen announced on the fleet-wide channel, "remember your training. These creatures have terrorized the galaxy for too long. Today we remind the universe that there are still people willing to fight back. Engage at will." The range dropped to 2 million kilometers. The first Devourer weapons opened fire, bioenergy beams and living projectiles streaking toward the human formation. Chen watched calmly as her ship's advanced defensive systems intercepted or deflected the incoming fire. 1 million kilometers. The Devourers were now firing with everything they had, millions of weapons creating a storm of deadly energy. A few human ships took minor damage, their quantum armor absorbing impacts that should have vaporized them completely. 500,000 kilometers. Chen could see individual Devourer vessels on her screen now. Horrible fusions of insect and machine that violated every natural law. Some were as large as cities, covered in weapons and claws and gnashing teeth. "Weapons range, Admiral," reported Rodriguez. Chen looked at the tactical display one final time. The Devourer formation was exactly where she wanted it. Bunched together, overconfident, completely unprepared for what was about to happen. She thought about the billions of innocent lives these creatures had consumed, the civilizations they had destroyed, the fear they had spread across the galaxy. "Fire," she said quietly. The human fleet opened fire with weapons that shouldn't exist. Antimatter torpedoes that burned like miniature suns. Gravitational pulse cannons that twisted space itself. Quantum disruption fields that tore matter apart at the subatomic level. And in 17 seconds, Admiral Sarah Chen and the human fleet rewrote the rules of galactic warfare forever. The first antimatter torpedo struck a Devourer bioship the size of a skyscraper. The creature-machine hybrid had been preparing to fire its own weapons when the human warhead made contact. For a brief moment, matter and antimatter met in perfect annihilation. The explosion was visible from the other side of the solar system. A miniature star bloomed in space, releasing more energy in 1 second than most civilizations used in a year. The targeted bioship simply ceased to exist, along with 17 others caught in the blast radius. But that was only the beginning, Admiral. Chen watched from the Indomitable's bridge as her fleet unleashed humanity's most advanced weapons against the Devourer swarm. 800 human ships fired simultaneously, their quantum targeting systems ensuring perfect accuracy, even at impossible ranges. Gravitational pulse cannons twisted space around entire sections of the enemy formation. Dozens of bioships were crushed instantly, as artificial gravity fields compressed them into dense balls of matter. Others were torn apart when the gravitational waves interfered with each other, creating zones where physics itself became unstable. "Direct hit on enemy Cluster 7 Alpha," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Estimated 43 vessels destroyed. Enemy Cluster 7 Beta is breaking apart under gravitational stress." Chen nodded. keeping her expression calm despite the incredible destruction unfolding around them. This was what 3 centuries of human space warfare had created, weapons that made the old galactic powers look like children playing with toys. The quantum disruption fields were perhaps the most terrifying weapons in humanity's arsenal. These devices reached into the fundamental structure of matter itself, disrupting the bonds that held atoms together. When a disruption field touched a devourer bioship, the creature didn't explode or burn. It simply fell apart into component molecules like a castle made of sand touched by ocean waves. Hive Queen Velnara's massive consciousness reeled from the sudden destruction. In 17 seconds, she had lost over 3 million vessels. 3 million extensions of her will, 3 million sources of her power simply gone. Through her remaining ships, she watched the human fleet tear through her swarm like wolves among sheep. Their weapons defied everything she knew about physics. Their tactics were impossible. 800 ships had just crippled a force that had conquered half the galaxy. For the first time in 3,000 years, Velnara felt fear. Retreat, she commanded through her bio-neural network. All ships, immediate withdrawal. But the humans weren't finished. As the surviving devourer ships tried to flee, the human vessels pursued with incredible speed. Their quantum drives allowed them to accelerate and turn in ways that should have liquefied any organic crew. Yet they moved like dancers through the chaos of battle. Admiral Chen activated her fleet-wide communications. All ships, pursuit pattern Delta. Don't let any of them escape. If even one devourer ship survives, they'll return with a larger swarm. The human fleet split into hunting groups, each one tracking down fleeing bioships with mechanical precision. The devourers had never faced an enemy that was faster, better armed, and more tactically sophisticated. Their hive mind, which had been their greatest strength against other species, became a weakness as panic spread through their shared consciousness. Captain Williams of the UES Retribution cornered a group of smaller devourer vessels trying to hide behind a moon. His ship's Stellarite warheads, weapons that converted normal matter into exotic energy states, turned the moon and everything behind it into a expanding cloud of superheated plasma. Commander Jackson aboard, the UES Relentless used her ship's experimental temporal distortion field to freeze a cluster of bioships in accelerated time. From the Devourer's perspective, the rest of the universe slowed to a crawl while they remained trapped in normal time. By the time the field collapsed, they had aged centuries and seconds and crumbled to dust. On the Kaleth flagship, Admiral Zephi and his crew watched in stunned silence as the impossible battle unfolded around them. The sensors could barely track what was happening. Human ships moved at speeds that registered as small tears in spacetime. Their weapons released energies that made nearby stars look dim by comparison. "How is this possible?" whispered Kessora, the young tactical officer. "Those ships are violating a dozen physical laws simultaneously." Zephi could only stare at the tactical display. In his worst nightmares, he had imagined the devourer swarm consuming his homeworld in hours. In his wildest dreams, he had hoped for a fighting retreat that might save some of his people. He had never imagined total victory in less than a minute. The human fleet regrouped near the center of the battlefield, where debris from millions of devourer ships created an asteroid field of biomechanical wreckage. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the surviving enemy forces. Less than 50,000 ships from an original swarm of 4 million. "Attention, devourer forces," she broadcast. "This is your final warning. Leave this system immediately and never return. Any attempt to rebuild your forces or threaten innocent civilizations will result in the complete extinction of your species. We know where you come from. We can find you anywhere in the galaxy. This is not a negotiation." Most of the surviving bioships immediately began fleeing toward the edge of the system, but Hive Queen Velnara's massive flagship held position, its biomechanical bulk dwarfing even the largest human vessels. Through her communication organs, Velnara sent a final message filled with rage and disbelief. "This is impossible. No species has ever defeated the Devourers. We have consumed civilizations older than your sun. We are the apex predators of the galaxy." Admiral Chen's response was swift and final. The Indomitable's main quantum disruption cannon charged to full power and fired a focused beam directly at the Hive Queen's flagship. The massive bioship, which had survived the destruction of 1,000 worlds, began to dissolve at the molecular level. Velnara felt her ancient consciousness scatter as her physical form fell apart. Through dying neural links, she sensed her remaining ships fleeing in absolute terror. For the first time in their species' history, the Devourers had learned what it meant to be prey. The battle was over. Where 4 million bioships had once threatened an entire star system, now only expanding clouds of debris remained. The human fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down but ready, like sharks resting after a feeding frenzy. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the Kaleth fleet. Admiral Zeph-Hi's face appeared on screen, his golden eyes wide with shock and awe. "Admiral Zeph-Hi," Chen said calmly, "the immediate threat has been neutralized. We'll remain in system for 48 hours to ensure no Devourer forces attempt to return. After that, we'll need to respond to another distress call we received from the Epsilon sector." The Kaleth Admiral struggled to find words. How did you... Admiral Chen, what you've accomplished here is impossible. How did 800 ships destroy 4 million? Chen smiled slightly, the first emotion she had shown since the battle began. "Admiral, humanity spent 10,000 years learning to fight each other. We got very good at it. When we finally reached the stars, we brought those lessons with us." She paused, looking at the debris field that had once been the most feared force in the galaxy. It turns out the universe needed better soldiers. The aftermath of the battle left the Nexus Prime system eerily quiet. Where millions of biomechanical nightmares had once swarmed, now only debris fields drifted slowly through space. The human fleet maintained formation around the Kaleth homeworld, their sleek ships a stark contrast to the organic wreckage surrounding them. Admiral Zeph-Hi stood in his shuttle's viewport, staring at the UES Indomitable as his transport approached the human flagship. Even at rest, the vessel radiated power. Its hull gleamed with an unknown metal that seemed to absorb starlight. Weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of some sleeping predator. The Kaleth delegation consisted of Zeph-Hi, 3 senior officers, and the planet's civilian leadership. They had come to formally thank their saviors and try to understand what they had witnessed. The shuttle docked with the Indomitable, and Zeph-Hi felt his 4 hearts racing as they were escorted through corridors filled with technology he couldn't begin to comprehend. The humans they passed looked remarkably ordinary, bipedal creatures with pale skin and short fur on their heads. They seemed small and fragile compared to the Kaleth, yet these beings had just accomplished the impossible. Admiral Chen met them in a conference room overlooking the ship's main hangar. Through the transparent walls, Zeph-Hi could see human starfighters that looked more like works of art than weapons of war. Everything about these people suggested a level of technological advancement that surpassed even the ancient civilizations. "Admiral Zeph-Hi," Chen said, rising from her chair, "welcome aboard. I understand this is your first time meeting humans." "Admiral Chen," Zeph-Hi replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. "On behalf of the Kaleth Confederacy and the billions of lives you saved, I offer our eternal gratitude. What you've done here, it defies everything we know about warfare." Chen gestured for the delegation to sit. "I appreciate your thanks, Admiral, but we didn't do anything special. We just applied human military doctrine to the problem." One of the Kaleth civilian leaders, an elderly female named Tessara, leaned forward. "Admiral Chen, forgive our confusion, but we've studied galactic military history for centuries. No civilization has ever achieved what your fleet accomplished today. The Devourers consumed the Zentari Empire. The Voidwalkers, species with technology far beyond ours. How did 800 ships destroy 4 million? Chen exchanged glances with her officers before answering. "The galaxy seems to have forgotten something important about warfare. It's not about having the biggest fleet or the most ships. It's about applying superior force at the decisive point while denying your enemy the ability to respond effectively." She activated a holographic display showing the recent battle. The Devourers relied on intimidation and overwhelming numbers. Their formation was designed to inspire fear, not fight efficiently. They bunched their forces together, making them vulnerable to area effect weapons. They had no clear command structure beyond their hive mind, so disrupting their communications paralyzed their response. Lieutenant Rodriguez, Chen's tactical officer, joined the explanation. "Human military doctrine is based on 3 principles: mobility, firepower, and intelligence. We hit hard, move fast, and always know more about the enemy than they know about us." The Devourers had never faced an opponent that combined all 3 elements. Zeph-Hi studied the tactical display. Even with the explanation, The human victory seemed impossible. But your weapons, we've never seen anything like them. Antimatter warheads, gravitational pulse cannons, quantum disruption fields. How did humanity develop such advanced technology in only 3 centuries of spaceflight? Chen's expression grew more serious. Admiral, humanity didn't spend 3 centuries learning to explore space. We spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other. By the time we developed faster-than-light travel, we had already perfected the art of warfare. She gestured to another display showing Earth's history. We fought with sticks and stones, then bronze and iron, then gunpowder and steel. We built machines to kill each other more efficiently. We split the atom and turned it into a weapon. We nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times before we learned to work together. The Kaleth delegation listened in horrified fascination as Chen continued. When we finally reached the stars, we brought those lessons with us. Every human colony is defended by people who understand that sometimes the only way to protect innocent life is to be very, very good at ending threats to it. Tessara spoke quietly. You're saying humanity is naturally violent? I'm saying humanity learned through bitter experience that peace is only possible when good people are willing and able to fight for it. Chen replied. The galaxy seems to have forgotten that lesson. Most civilizations we've encountered rely on diplomacy, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. When something like the Devourers appears, they have no idea how to respond. Admiral HFY felt a chill of understanding. You're warriors. All of you. Every human serves in the military for at least 2 years, Rodriguez confirmed. We learn tactics, strategy, weapons handling, and small unit leadership. It's not just about fighting, it's about understanding how to work as a team under pressure and make hard decisions when lives are at stake. Chen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the debris field. Admiral HFY, your people fought bravely against impossible odds. You protected refugee fleets from other worlds. You never surrendered even when defeat seemed certain. Those are the actions of natural allies. She turned back to the Kaleth delegation. We'd like to offer a formal alliance between humanity and the Kaleth Confederacy. We'll share some of our defensive technology, not our weapons, but shields, sensors, and communication systems that will help protect your worlds. What do you want in return? Tessara asked suspiciously. Nothing, Chen said simply. We're not conquerors, Administrator. We're problem solvers. The galaxy has too many threats and not enough people willing to stand up to them. We'd rather have friends than subjects. Over the next several hours, the 2 species exchanged information and began planning their alliance. The humans shared shield technology that could protect entire star systems. The Kaleth provided detailed star charts and cultural information about dozens of species. But the most important exchange was philosophical. The Kaleth began to understand humanity's approach to security. That sometimes the best way to prevent war was to be so overwhelmingly good at fighting that potential enemies chose not to start conflicts. As the meeting concluded, Admiral HFY asked one final question. Admiral Chen, what happens now? Will humanity patrol the galaxy enforcing peace? Chen shook her head. We're not galactic police, Admiral. We respond to genuine distress calls from civilizations facing extinction, but we don't interfere in local politics or trade disputes. The galaxy is a big place, and most species need to solve their own problems. She paused, looking out at the stars. But word will spread about what happened here. Every pirate, raider, and would-be conqueror in the galaxy will hear that there are consequences for threatening innocent people. Sometimes the best deterrent is a reputation for being willing and able to use force when necessary. The Kaleth delegation returned to their shuttle with their heads spinning from everything they had learned. As they departed the Indomitable, they carried with them technology that would revolutionize their defense capabilities and a new understanding of what it meant to be truly safe in a dangerous universe. Admiral Chen watched their shuttle disappear before turning to her bridge crew. Communications, any new distress calls? Yes, ma'am. We're receiving a priority signal from the Rigel sector. A species called the Thanari is reporting attacks by something called the Iron Tide, automated warships that consume metal and reproduce themselves. Chen nodded grimly. Another threat, another chance to remind the galaxy that some people still believed in protecting the innocent. Set course for the Rigel sector. Maximum speed. As the human fleet prepared to depart, they left behind a changed galaxy. Word of humanity's intervention spread faster than any ship could travel. On 1,000 worlds, sentient beings heard the same message. The humans had arrived and they were very, very good at war. Pirates reconsidered their targets. Raiders sought easier prey. Would-be conquerors decided that perhaps expansion wasn't worth the risk. And in the depths of space, where darkness had ruled for so long, a new light began to shine. The knowledge that somewhere among the stars, there were still people willing to fight for what was right. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.